No one talks about the emotional weight of leadership, but it's real and it's heavy. I've sat in school offices and leadership team meetings on 6 continents, and no matter where I am, Sydney, Stockholm, or Singapore, the same quiet truth eventually rises. Someone will say, "I'm carrying so much, more than anyone else, and there's no room for me to put it down." It rarely starts with strategy, it starts with weight, the emotional weight of leadership. A student is in crisis, a parent is furious, a teacher is burning out. A policy is shifted yet again, and you're expected to hold the line, steady the staff, and be calm in the storm. And you do, because that's what leaders do. But the accumulation, that's what gets you. Not one big breakdown, but a slow buildup of everything no one else has space for. The emotional tsunami doesn't knock leaders over in one wave, it pulls them under quietly. And the worst part, the system rarely notices until they're already drowning. But I've seen leaders reclaim themselves, not by pushing harder, but by naming the weight and navigating it differently. So here are 3 truths that I've seen that make the biggest difference for the ones who are still standing but getting tired. The first truth is you're not weak for feeling heavy. I was working with a principal recently who said, "Maybe I'm just not built for this. I feel everything too much." But here's what she really meant, and here's what was really going on. She couldn't shake a staff member's personal grief. She carried guilt over not being able to do more for a particular student. She felt responsible for every emotion in the building, and no one had told her this was part of her job. Not officially, not in training, not in her job description, but it was everywhere. My answer was simple. You're not broken, you're just awake. And you've been trying to carry everything with no space to breathe. Emotional sensitivity isn't a flaw. It's not too soft. It's leadership unshielded, and it needs support, not shame. But naming the weight is only the beginning. The next step is learning how to hold it without losing yourself. And that's the second truth, that calm isn't the goal, clarity is. In one education department, I was in a debrief session with a regional leader, and they said, "I just try to stay calm. That's my job. Keep it together for everyone else." But here's what was happening behind that calm. They were absorbing every emotion from their team, nodding, reassuring, buffering, leaving meetings with a pounding headache and no energy actually left to lead. And that's the trap. Calm looks good, but calm without clarity, that's just emotional containment. Leadership isn't about staying serene, it's about knowing what's actually yours to hold. Once this leader started drawing lines, naming what required emotional investment and what didn't, they didn't become cold, they became clear. And in doing so, they became more trusted, not less. And even with clarity, if there's no space to recover, the system will still consume you. And that leads me to truth 3. You don't need to bounce back, you need to breathe. One of the most grounded principals I've ever met shared something simple with me. Every day at 2:45, she walked the longest hallway in the school alone. No phone, no agenda, just 5 minutes every day. But she told me, "It's the only moment I'm not carrying someone else's stress." She was escaping, she was resetting, and it changed everything. She made better decisions, held stronger boundaries, and became less reactive because she gave herself room to respond. You don't lead well by bracing harder, you lead well by breathing deeper. That 5-minute practice wasn't self-care, it was a survival strategy, and it gave her back the one thing so many leaders are missing: inner space. I've seen too many good leaders slowly disappear inside the emotional overload of the job, not because they weren't strong, but because they didn't realize that strength doesn't mean carrying it alone. So let's name this clearly. You're not here to be the emotional sponge for a broken system. You're here to lead something more human than that. And that doesn't mean shutting off or pulling back. It means leading with presence and boundaries. Holding what matters, releasing what doesn't, and giving yourself room to breathe between the waves. Because the tsunami isn't going to stop on its own, but you don't have to be swept under by it. You don't need to be calm, you need to be clear. and brave enough to pause. And this is exactly what we explore in the Professional Wellness Workshop, a free space I've created for school leaders like you who want to lead with clarity, strength, intention, not chronic overwhelm. And when you register, I'll send you an advanced copy of my new book, Culture of Excellence: The Pathway to Empowered Teaching, Inspired Learning, and Intentional Leadership. Now, tell me, what helps you manage the emotional weight of leadership without losing yourself in it? Drop it in the comments. I would really love to hear what's helped you to hold the line. And if this resonated, like the post to help others find it, subscribe for more leadership clarity, and importantly, share this with a colleague who's also carrying quietly more than they should have to.